Josh Bushing, Fairly Awesome Podcast. We got the whole crew assembled because we're going to talk about warp drives. I got a couple of articles that I found, one on IO9, the other one's MSNBC or something, and it was talking about how NASA could build its first warp drive. Warp drive's cool, huh?
Sounds good. Yeah.
I'm ready.
Yeah. Chris, you want to tell us how this thing works?
I was not in charge. I thought Nate was going to cover.
No.
How.
No. I thought that was Stoughton. I thought Stoughton knew.
Ryan, you said you were going to do it.
Okay. Seriously, does nobody know how this works?
Fucking magic. Some scientist has already come up with a way. Apparently, there was a scientist, the Alcubierre drive.
Yeah, we'll give it to you.
Okay.
Whatever.
Seems
Anyhow,
legit.
so
Seems legit.
Alcoholics
Drive?
Seems legit.
Yeah.
Alcoholic drive.
Alcoholics Drive Anonymous?
Why not Dingleberry?
Yes, the Dingleberry wrote this paper, right? And it was apparently talking about this drive and how it would function, but that it would require redonkulous amounts of power. We didn't have the science at the time to process this or whatever, so later on, this other scientist comes up with this theory of how he can make it work with less power or something like that.
It was like the mass of Jupiter is how much power it was going to take.
Yeah.
Apparently, in order to power this drive. That's what I'd read.
A small failed star. We should be able to come up with that.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't see any reason why
couple
not.
of energizers.
Small failed star. Miley Cyrus is available.
Oh, very nice. Very nice.
You're all nice. Take your waitresses. Try the deal.
Okay, so the idea is that they put forth something along the lines of it doesn't violate physics. Right, I remember reading something about this.
Correct.
Yeah, it doesn't violate Einstein's theory of relativity.
Correct.
But the problem was the power consumption was literally impossible to create. But this guy's recalculated or determined a method that you can do it with power that we actually have. My issue with this, Nate, is that there's no working prototype. This is all in some scientist's head. Now, he may be brilliant, but we did just call him a Dingleberry, so how trustworthy can he be?
Well, all right, so should we kind of start why are they doing this to begin with? Because it's supposed to be for faster than light travel. Like
right,
we're trying
right. So right now we're kind of hitting the ceiling on chemical propulsion.
Right.
Right. Like there's only so fast you really can go with using propellants.
Mm-hmm.
What they're talking about doing, and what Einstein said, is you can't really even get very close to the speed of light. You can't really accelerate up to that, and you certainly can't exceed it.
Yes.
And then there were all sorts of, well, if it were possible, all these sorts of crazy stuff would have to happen, like, what happens to time, what happens, whatever.
Right.
So what I read out of this was they were talking about the object itself doesn't actually accelerate. It makes
space
an
around
empty,
it.
right,
Yeah.
an empty pocket in front of whatever this object is. It's like a field, right? And then it expands space behind it, and the object sort of falls into it, but never actually accelerates itself. So it's sort of dragging space, to make it work. And it's all theory at this point, right?
Right.
Absolutely no working prototype, but it's a bunch of math that appears to work out
Yeah.
with known physics.
Somebody assumed that, or somebody had assumed that if you were riding this thing and you were like flying along, it would look like you were like in fast forward, like watching things around you in fast forward. Like it would seem smoother and there would be an instant acceleration. But this is all theory, right? I mean, nobody really knows if it's going to work that way. It could kill people inside. We don't know how warp fields, as they were almost Star Trek-esque, would affect people.
Right.
The most likely scenario is that it goes to hell and then comes back, and then Sam O'Neill kills everybody.
Right. Sam Neill, not O'Neill.
Sam Neill. That's best case scenario?
Is that like shirking? You shirk down? You're like, oh.
You're like, let's go to your nerd card.
Lawrence
We gotta
Fishburne
take one of those stickers off. I'm
disapproves.
sorry.
He puts on his Morpheus
We're
glasses
going
and
to
says, deal
unpunch your
with it.
nerd card. Fill that in with a little putty. I'm sorry, sir.
Oh, God damn it.
Yeah, you were thinking Colonel O'Neill from Stargate, weren't you? See, you were trying to have some
Well,
crossover.
obviously.
Yeah,
Like a
see?
merged-
Yeah,
it's merged
obviously.
Yeah,
reality.
except
Yes.
for he's General O'Neill. Sorry, when did you demote him?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe because original Stargate he was Colonel O'Neill.
This is a hell of a tangent for a short.
Yes.
Yes.
The question is, with not being any working prototype, is it even realistic that we're going to come up with something?
I don't know that we're going to come up with something. A lot of it depends on what they think they can use it for. If they see some sort of application that beyond, a quick trip to outer space, maybe somebody will put some money into it.
Yeah.
But as far as, pie in the sky, hey, I want to see how fast we can get to the moon. No one's going to care. We can get to the moon now. We got to the moon. We don't care anymore. Been there, seen it. Kind of dusty.
But the only reason that we've hit a wall in space exploration is because of propulsion. Like, we would almost certainly have bases all over the solar system if we could get there in any kind of reasonable amount of time, which we can't right now.
Yeah.
18 months or whatever
Would
for
we?
Mars is not reasonable.
Or is it because of the wars and whatnot kind of drove us to get there? And right
Yeah.
now we're not really fighting any kind of reconnaissance war with anybody, really. I mean, China might get there soon, but...
Let's put it this way. If they found... We know that there are elements of value out there, minerals out there available, but they're just really too far away, essentially, to get to.
Yeah.
If they found helium-3 on the moon, like legitimately, then not just an iron sky, then we would actually, or
Science.
or moon, yeah, moon. We would be there and mining it, and we know that there is that kind of deposits in things that are further out in the asteroid belt, or probably on other planets, almost certainly on other planets. There's no question, or moons. And right now it's just a function of you can't get there. This isn't going to happen in our lifetime.
No, I'm gonna go ahead and have to agree with you on that one. This is not gonna happen. We'll all be dead and gone by the time anything comes out of this. Because
unless there is a major Cold War type run up of technology. That's the only way.
Even then, I think if there was some sort of run up in technology, right now, everything's kind of overcommitted everywhere. So I don't think it's not like, we got all these reserves, we can totally go ahead and throw money at this thing. Money is elsewhere at the moment.
Well, but there's plenty of money to be had in NASA. It would just have to be, like you said, recommitted to actually functioning.
Yeah.
It is
things.
kind of crazy that right now. I mean, I'm such a Neil deGrasse Tyson fan, but just from watching his videos or whatever, you find out that NASA is like way underfunded.
Fractions a penny.
Right,
Yeah.
right, and you kind of wonder, with what we got out of NASA in 60s, 70s, maybe even 80s, but I'll say 60s, 70s kind of golden era for NASA. I kind of wonder if you did take the investment in NASA back up to something reasonable, would it suddenly would you suddenly see this in our lifetime? It's just unlikely for NASA to see the budget for this kind of development.
Yeah. I suppose ultimately it doesn't really matter. We kind of are going to have to wait and see if the math actually pans out in the first place. Because it could be somebody forgot to carry a 1, and it really is going to take the amount of energy the size of Jupiter as opposed to, what did they say, the Voyager 1 spacecraft?
Yep.
Which is still a decent amount of energy. It's just more realistic than Jupiter.
But, I mean, we don't know... how do you test this thing too? Like to test this theory, some people suppose that like when you come out of the warp field, that it would like destroy whatever solar system you were in, just because of the amount of energy released after the warp
The
is shut
build
off.
up on the front edge of the...
So who knows? Yeah, that sounds safe. Seems legit.
We should definitely test that on Earth.
Yeah,
Somewhere.
yeah.
I think that's the
But
best.
in all serious though, I think NASA, if we were to further the budget, they would focus more on something like escaping from Earth's atmosphere in a more efficient manner, or some other way that we would, we
This is
still
the
have
problem,
steps.
is
Yeah,
that you can't just throw money at NASA.
Right.
You have to say, you have to find a way to encourage the development of propulsion. And I think that one of the reasons that NASA in the 60s and 70s did have their so-called golden era is because they were willing to try anything to see what works. I mean, all the different failed rocket ships and things like that. Like, you almost can't do that now just for OSHA reasons. You know? Like, could you imagine if they put a monkey in the warp drive and sent it to another solar system and it blew up? Like, PETA would go nuts. Or should I say, bananas?
That's 2 puns too many for this podcast. you were.
But the point being is that there has to be a reason for us to go forward with this, because right now everything's communications technology. That's where everything's really advancing, and I think that's because that's the most commercial application. And you're right, there really is very little commercial application for a warp drive.
Yeah.
That's true. We don't
just
have any
exploration.
outposts anywhere or whatever.
You know what I would be interested in? If you did up NASA's funding to, I don't know, let's go even beyond what Neil deGrasse Tyson says, the penny on the U.S. Dollar or whatever, the tax dollar.
Okay.
Let's say you took it to 2. Would this even make would NASA even fund this? You know what I mean? They're doing the theory now because they got to pay one guy to do math,
Yeah.
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Would NASA even fund this, or do they have much higher priorities? Like, I know they're talking about going to some moons of Saturn and Jupiter to look for life.
Yep.
Would that be a higher priority for us than this, or would this even make the list? I don't know.
I see it's all about propulsion. Nobody explored North America. Obviously there were people here and blah, blah, blah. But the reason there wasn't that level of colonization earlier was because there was not the shipbuilding technology.
Yes.
You couldn't, unless you were a really lucky Viking, make it over to North America and see what's going on.
Too rough a sea. and
Yeah, we
everything
had
else.
to reach a certain level of technology with our actual transportation means. And really, there hasn't been any advance in transportation in the last, well,
100 years?
when Orville and Wilbur.
But that's a huge jump in technology. We're talking. That legitimately 100 years is somebody's lifetime if they live to 100. Could we not see that level of advancement while we're 80 or 90 years old?
You're right, because chemical propulsion, they were doing internal combustion motors to drive propellers to make a plane fly.
Right.
That is not even remotely close to how these rockets work, and it made a whole new field, right?
Yeah.
We
Rocket
have
science.
to see to see the leap, the technological leap, before this is even plausible.
Yeah.
They thought the speed of sound, the way we think about our forefathers thought about the speed of sound the way we think about the speed of light.
Yeah.
I'm sure at some point somebody will find a way to break it. That I have no doubt. I don't think I'll ever be able to see the benefit of it. And it's simply a function of right now there's no real need, but all of a sudden if the Earth gets really crowded and actually we're getting close to that point, I think, where people want to find places to be that aren't on the planet anymore. And if you had that Mars deal,
Yeah,
where
where
you
you
could sign up
could
for
sign
a
up
one-way
and go
trip, and
road
they had
trip,
like
yeah.
300,000 people apply or something
Yeah.
like that. Now, like only 10 of them were serious, probably.
Yeah.
But legitimately, I think that there are a lot of families that probably would go to someplace better if they could.
Well, and you have to think about, you were saying commercial applications. If we were to find some sort of, like you said, element on another planet or something like that via what we're doing now, maybe that would, jumpstart us. We run out of, rare elements and rare materials. Like a lot of them are in China right now. Heavy metals and all that. Yeah, they're all in China. The ones that are in your iPhones and all that.
Rare magnets. And
Yeah, if we need that stuff, then that's going to probably spark a need for something like
going
faster
to the
travel.
asteroid
Yeah.
belt or
Yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah.
It is interesting, right? Because it's almost Viking-like. The only reason they did that was to raid and pillage areas and then bring it back.
Yep.
Right.
For them, it wasn't, until the trip that he finally made it over, it wasn't it was always intended to come back. You know what I mean?
There was never a desire to go live somewhere else. It was always just a desire to find new shit.
Right.
Hey, yeah, why not?
Gotcha.
Claim
Hopefully.
lands and bring it back.
Yeah, hopefully. The big thing I'm hoping for we get out of this is cell phone batteries that last more than like 2 days.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey,
That would be a great.
Awesome. Well, I think that about wraps it up. If you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to like it. Leave comments down below. You want to follow us Facebook.com/FairlyAwesomePodcast and follow us on Twitter at FAPcast. Thanks, guys. Throw it back to me.
Yeah, I was just then giving him the segue back
Yeah.
into it, and then you fucked us all up.
All right.
You said, oh, hello.
Why don't you?
Oh my god.
Hit the timer.
I was trying to lick your hand so
Oh,
you
yeah,
could be
it's
ready
pretty
to
Yeah, I just want you
just
to
slap it.